Williams? Oh.
No. Well, every kid in America deserves a good education, so they've got a shot at success in life. But they're not getting it in America's public schools. And it doesn't help when big celebrities use their star power to support teachers' unions. Now, we told you about Matt Damon deciding to send his kids to private schools after being a longtime supporter of public schools. And Florida governor, or former governor, Jeb Bush, is calling him out for the hypocrisy. He tweeted, quote, "Matt Damon refuses to enroll his kids in L.A. public schools. Choice okay for Damon. Why not everybody else?" Now, Bush doesn't begrudge Damon for choosing public or private over public, but says that he shouldn't fight efforts to give that option to every parent in America. And I think we all said the same thing here the other day, Eric. We don't begrudge anyone from having the choice. But why don't you think this is an issue in D.C. that Republicans and Democrats can't come together on? Why do they have to make it so vicious and political and involve the teachers?
It's not even that Matt Damon is sending his kids to private school. It's that he stood on that podium saying, what a great public education I got, a real progressive public education I got. He moves to L.A. and says it's not progressive enough, so I'm sending him to private school. What more progressive group on the planet than Los Angeles, California public school system? I can't think of anything more progressive than that. It's clearly Matt Damon hypocrisy.
Dana, some cities are trying to make an effort to do something about the standards. New York City just released their Common Core standardized test results. Take a look at this. In English and math, blacks were at 16 and 15% of a passing grade, Hispanics 16 and 19, Asians 48 and 61, whites 47 and 50. So quite the disparity. And Dana, this is going to taste like vinegar coming out, but I actually have to give Mayor Bloomberg credit for this. They expected these low test scores. This is very rigorous, and the City Journal, which I know you read religiously and you like that publication, supports this. It's actually a very good knowledge-based move. So what's going on,
So you can't fix a problem if you don't know what the problem is. And the problem is if you have only 15% of African-American kids able to meet the, even if it's a higher bar, for reading and math, 15%, it's criminal. We are deeming these children to a future life of dependency on government. They will not be able to find jobs. Employers won't be able to figure out a way to hire them. And we're not. If you should not have. Condi Rice yesterday said you can pinpoint somebody's education access by their zip code, and it shouldn't be that way. We should figure out a way to allow people to go from one school to the next. That's not the only thing that we need to do in education. But if we don't do something, our long-range economic growth projections in the United States are abysmal.
Can I just clarify something?
Yeah.
These standardized tests you're saying in New York City were harder than the standardized tests outside of the city? Is that what you're saying?
Well, from ones before.
Yeah, from ones before.
This
Common Core program is something they've been pushing in different states. They expected to have these low performance rates, but the issue of blacks and Hispanics is a big one, Greg. But I think that the problem with education is that families either value it or they don't. And we so often talk about that here, that the value of a good education is taught at home. And if the kids aren't getting the parents to tell them, study, like you've heard Dr. Ben Carson say, how do they have this value then that it becomes important?
Well, what makes any education problem worse is the denigration of the structural support for education and achievement, which scientists call the family. You're more likely to do homework if you have mom and dad there to force you to do homework. And that's the other part of the Matt Damon piece. People think of him as a rich hypocrite. But he also has a wife, which is a mom, and so that actually helps, because no mom is going to say, I'm sending my kids to that public school because it's a progressive ideal. That might impress his buddy Ben Affleck, but the mom is going to say no. So as long as there are two parents there, you're more likely to make the right decision. And by the way, I just want to, there are three things that the government manages to wrestle away from private control. That is education, health care, and retirement. All three of them are a mess. So can't we just agree that it's not a war against right versus left or Republicans and Democrats? It's private versus public, and public is losing.
Bob, do you support vouchers?
First of all, let me just say one thing after listening to all this stuff around this table. The overwhelming number of schools in this country are great. The teachers are great. The averages of math and science are up. You ask the polls of people who live.
They're not.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait 1 second. Wait 1 second.
You set up.
You ask people around this country if they think they've got a good education system in their neighborhood. Ask them in Indianapolis. Ask them in places around in rural America. They'll say yes.
In Indianapolis, you mean where they put in the most rigorous.
No, what you do, you know what you do? You pick out black cities and you say, terrible, there's terrible education, terrible teachers. You're always going back and you're playing, frankly, the race card.
Which is exactly the reason why they don't get any better.
You name me one thing. You always constantly refer to Washington, D.C. or New York City in the minority community.
Bob, because it's a fact, and it's unfortunate that these parents... Look, I'm going to pull up a poll right here. No. Don't give me that fatwa, this behavior. I'm not going to put up with it. But if you look at a majority of Hispanics and blacks, Bob, they favor school choice, and it's in these same cities that you talk about. These black and Hispanic parents are desperate to have the same choices that Matt Damon has.
Okay, let's just forget cities for a second. Let's look across the country. 30% of people that go to take the military entry exam can pass it.
The military
30%. You cannot, Bob. If we don't do some serious changing, and I want to value teachers as well. I don't blame the teachers unions for everything, but this is an epidemic of a problem.
It's an epidemic of a problem because we rely on ridiculous test scores and make an assumption about it.
Against the globe, we are getting our butt kicked.
Well, you can see one place we are.
Our lunch. Our kids are coming out of schools ranked in the low 30s globally.
Well, if you look at the one thing, Asians are up here as they are across the country. It's always been my fear. We educate them, we send them home, then they come out and
But why? Because the great point. It's the family.
I think they should eat our lunch because our kids are fat.
Not as much as fat as they used to be, which is the one
thing. No, they're fat.
But I think if we removed, to your point, Bob, I know you didn't listen to me make this point, but I do think we should remove the antagonism between teachers and politicians. I think we should move it to more of a community-based focus. I do think we should pursue vouchers. And I will say this core education is good. It's trying to give these kids a knowledge-based curriculum, not the history of bubbles and what can you do with garbage and all this other nonsense.
The unions have to meet politicians halfway because if 99% of their efforts and their money all go to Democratic candidates that perpetuate the problems.
That's because Democratic candidates support public education, and most teachers are damn good.
And they are. That is a